All right, we are live, gentlemen. How's it going tonight? 12 Volt Talk here in the house. We have, as always, my co-host, Mr. Hi-Fi Vega. And we also have a special guest tonight from Rockford Fosgate. We have Eric. How's it going, Eric?
Hey, good to see you guys. Derek, Robert, how's it going?
Going well.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us to be on. This was a great opportunity for us, and we really appreciate that.
Well, you know, the history of how we get guests on the show is Rob does a lot of stuff for the show. He does the editing, he does a lot of the postings, and he does a lot of the other things. And it's my responsibility to get the guests. So when we don't have guests for several months in a row, it's because I'm slacking. And we
I use Derek's name, like, hey, have you heard of Williston Audio Labs? Would you like to be on 12V Talk?
Yeah, I've talked about having you on for a while. I just keep forgetting to ask you. So it's awesome that we were able to work this out and get you on.
Yeah, it's right in between classes, so this is perfect.
That's great. Well, just double checking everybody who is in the who's on the stream here, just making sure the audio is okay. We've listened to it back and forth here, and I think we're good. But just somebody give me a thumbs up or something just to verify that we're good. And then we will get straight in to the podcast.
Yeah. Mic check.
Yeah, I think we're good. So what I'll do, Eric, is I'm just going to kind of go ahead and kick off the podcast. This is the part that we use for the audio section, and then we will we'll introduce you and bring you in and all that stuff, and then we'll get right into the good part. Get into the questions. All right. I'll do my countdown here. 5, 4, 3, 2. 12 Volt Talk, episode 71. We have Eric from Rockford Fosgate tonight.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's going on, guys? As always, we have my co-host here, Hi-Fi Vega. Rob, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Coming live.
Rob's got a new 4K camera.
In 2D. I got a Rockford Fosgate shirt. We're doing it big tonight. Oh,
big representing too.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem with being a big dude is they push the logos down on a shirt when you're a big dude, and see, I can't have it high enough. So apologies in advance. But yeah, it's a really cool shirt. Actually, we'll get to that later. But Eric sent me this shirt years ago. We had they had a fanatic list and stuff. But we'll talk about that later. But it's really cool. But the shirt is kind of yelling. You know, I've had it for a while and I wear it so much, but always representing. So we like to have on companies that kind of take us back to the old school. And Eric has been with Rockford Fosgate for a while. We're going to talk about that. But before we get started with that, make sure you check out Rob Hi-Fi Vega on YouTube. He's got a lot of good content out there. Just recently did a video about the top 10 subwoofers under $100. It's a great video. He puts out regular content every week or so. You can check me out, Williston Audio, on YouTube. And we try to get about a video a week. We did the F-150 last week, and that horrible factory system that we paid so much extra for. So let's get into Mr. Eric here from Rockford Fosgate. Eric, first off, again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy guy to join us. And first of all, let's just get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us what's going on today, and we'll get into the deeper questions.
Sure. Well, I appreciate being on the show. So I'm been with Rockford Fosgate for 30 years. I started in August of 1989. Ironically, my sister and I used to work a couple blocks from here, and on the way home, I'm like, I think I'm going to try it out. And I was actually the first employee that Rockford had hired because they were on a hiring freeze at the time for about 3 years. So I was very fortunate to be one of those first employees back in, got into the Hafler production at the time. So Rockford Corporation owned a couple different companies. We owned Acoustat, which was home theater electrostatic speakers. And then we had Rockford Fosgate car audio. And then we had Hafler, which is home theater, home audio. Now, a lot of people don't know who David Hafler is, But David Hafler basically built a lot of amplifier kits so that consumers and enthusiasts could build a home audio amplifier at home. So really cool design, really cool concept. And later on, Hafler became the monitors that were used at Capitol Studios. So when Wally Trogett remastered the Beatles albums, he used our TMS-8 loudspeakers, near field monitors. So we're really proud about that. And he also used a 9505 Pro Series amplifier. So our product is in a lot of movie theaters. That product line has now been sold to another company. So now we mainly just have Rockford Fosgate, and that's where I've been, for the past 30 years. Thank goodness.
That is incredible. I know, and you know, I've been into car audio since the late 80s too, so it's about the same time frame. And I first got into it. When I first got into it, my brother was an installer, and he had a Punch 150 in his RX-7 powering 6 subwoofers. And I was always blown away by that one amp, what it could do with those 6 subs. But yeah, it's always kind of been something that excited me back in the day. The Punch 45, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but back in the day, that amp was so popular that my local shops were actually charging more than the suggested price on it. So it was very frustrating to me, you know, going, I was like, man, I got to save it. And, you know, this is back when no credit cards, we had to save cash. You know, we mow lawns and do whatever we could do to save up the money. But I finally did get a Punch 45 HD, and I still have it in the box. I just don't have the burst sheet because I sold it to my friend. He lost the burst sheet. I got it back from him. But anyway, that's kind of how I started off with Rockford, and I always, you know, really a big fan. I had amps all the way through the 90s that were Rockford. I switched a couple different ones, but they were always rock solid. You know, I never had any problems with them. You know, they get hot, but they would never shut off. And anyway, so my experience with Rockford over the years has always been, wow, you pay a little more, but you get great products that last. And Rob actually himself, Rob, what was your first amp?
My first real amp, good amp, was the Punch 225.2.
Oh yeah, good amp. Yeah.
On the 12-inch Punch DVC, which is still to this day probably one of my favorite subs of all time. Best all-around sub. It sounded good. It played low. It played loud. It did everything.
Yeah, and that's actually when I came on at the Hafler division. Thankfully, I had a good reputation for quality control, and they needed me over in Rockford Fosgate. And at the time, I helped build out what was called the RF 2000. If you guys have ever seen that home theater amplifier, that's the really big one. And it's actually based on a Power 1000 platform, if you can believe it. So John France, when he was developing the Power 1000, the Chrome model, he also developed a home theater model. And if you took the sheet metal off, it basically looked like a Power 1000. You could see the large resistors lining up and down, and it had a gigantic donut for a transformer. It was really, really heavy, but super, super powerful. And then after I finished that home theater build out of that RF 2000, then they pulled me over into Rockford Fosgate production, where I was really fortunate to start off on the Punch 45, the Punch 75, Punch 150. And then that's when the Power 300, Power 650, and Power 1000s were in their heydays. So I actually started on the assembly line putting sheet metal on those amplifiers. So they're still working today, a lot of them. It's so great to see how many are still out in the marketplace. And I know Rockford Fosgate vintage products have been becoming very, very popular lately. And it's great to just see that those products that we built so many years ago are still working today.
Yeah, it's true. You know, it stands the test of time. The only thing I've ever seen that has been a problem over the years is with the HD series of Punch HD. The little card that goes in there has some capacitors that go bad. But I think that was just a bad run of capacitors because a lot of the electronics at that time had an issue. But other than that, and some of the company, I think it's Freeman's here in North Carolina, actually had that remade. They had it re-engineered and made a new card. So they actually have those available still that you can get that card replaced. And rock solid amp. I mean, you know, it's amazing to me to think about all the stuff that's sold today. You know, people complain about, you have to pay more than $100 for 1,000 watts. I'm like, well, how long do you plan on keeping that? You know, I've got stuff mounted here on my wall that I pull off the wall, put it on the test bench, and run it through the amp dyno and hook it up to subwoofers, and it works. And it's 25 years old. What are you going to do with that $100 amp? You're going to throw it away. You know, you're talking about saving trees and saving the environment. You're killing it by buying this cheap stuff. Buy the quality equipment, and you can keep it for a while. So it's like anything else. You get what you pay for.
Yeah, not to mention when it comes to power output, you know, there is no rule or guideline where a company could get in trouble per se if they lie about their power ratings. We have seen lots of amplifiers where they just don't produce the power that they say. Now, we're not talking about the flea market stuff where it's, you know, rated at 25 watts, but it does 5,000 by 5,000. I mean, we're talking about normal car audio products that you test a lot, Derek, on your old school stereo channel. And you really find out what power output the amplifier does. And Rockford Fosgate, since the early 80s, we've done what's called a punch verification certificate. And this actually shows how much power the amplifier does produce real time. So this is with speakers connected, not on a resistive load. So yeah, you really do pay a little bit more, but you get a lot of performance out of that. And that to what you're saying, you know, spend a little bit more money, you'll definitely, you know, it'll definitely be worth it in the end.
And do you happen to know if Rockford Fosgate was one of the first companies to do the burst sheets? Because they are definitely one of the first companies I remember seeing with burst sheets.
To the best of my knowledge, we are the first. As soon as we started doing it, a couple competitors that are here in Arizona started doing the same thing.
It's a good idea.
I agree. It definitely is a good idea. And, you know, anybody who doesn't do it today, you know, what's up with that? But hey, it's good for me because I'm able to test more and show it on YouTube. And just like Eric said, the whole reason that I got into testing amps, one of the reasons was I was curious about what these old amplifiers really did. But then it got to the point where people were asking, well, hey, what about this, you know, audio pipe or this Rockville or this whatever brand? What does it really do? And then that's what kind of, you know, morphed my channel into testing other stuff as well. But just like you said, Eric, it's always interesting because sometimes it's an unknown. People put things on there power wise, but you really don't have an idea.
Right.
So I think that's what's great about the availability of products today, like from DeMoore Engineering and SMD, that, you know, they're kind of expensive, but if you want to do this stuff at home, you can actually do it. It's not the same equipment that, you know, the high end equipment that you guys use, like the Power Cube and the AP and some other things like that. But it does give you a good baseline idea if you want to do it yourself. But anyway, we kind of jumped ahead a little bit. I wanted to backtrack just a little bit and get back into maybe some of the history and tell us how you got into car audio. We heard about how you started with Rockford, but how did you get into car audio? Was it, you know, your first Sparkomatic tape deck back in the day, or what was up with that?
So when I was in high school, I actually did start off with a couple Rode Thunder subwoofers and an amplifier that I could afford at the time. Of course, I'm a junior and then a senior in high school, and I didn't have a lot of money. So that's what really got me hooked, was just the vehicle rattling bass. And once you get that vibration in your body, your heart, your soul, like you really want to do that more and more and more. So that's what really got me hooked in the car audio. And then I had a lot of friends that were coming over. Hey, can you help me with my system? I've got this punch amplifier. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I see a lot of this Rockford Fosgate stuff. And then ironically, that's when I stopped by on the way from my other job and put in an application here. So that's kind of where I first started off. It was a two 15-inch Rode Thunder subwoofers. But as soon as I got hired on here and passed the 90-day orientation, but I dove straight into a couple punch subwoofers and a Power 300 and a OEQ equalizer. And then later on, I did buy chrome shrouds for that Power 300 and that chrome for the chrome OEQ. And those are kind of like the, near and dear to my heart. Unfortunately, the 300 was stolen out of my house. The OEQ did happen to survive, and I still have that intact. And I basically built that car up over years, and then eventually it was built into basically 2 triangles that fired, very similar to a Fukuda style build. And it had 8 audiophile 12-inch subwoofers. And at that time, I was really getting into the development of Rockford Fosgate products. So I was working more with the engineering team, and they were testing products out in my vehicle because I had such a large inductive load. And like what you were saying with the Power Cube, we do use that as a test device here at Rockford Fosgate. Now, the Power Cube, it is a very expensive device out of Sweden, I believe. And what it does is it doesn't just test resistive loads. It actually mimics speaker loads. So it tests inductive loads, which is like the voice coil wire, right? And then capacitive loads, which could be the surround and other parts of the speaker that creates capacitance. So it actually tests all 3 factors of the speaker. So that way, when you're looking at the amplifier, is it going in to protect in the, a very, very high inductive load, but on resistive and capacitive loads, it's fine. So that's why we use the Power Cube, because it's a good 360 view of what the amplifier can do all the way around.
And that's a good technology that Derek has explained to people that they might not know that Rockford has, where you maintain the power through a range of impedance, which that's tough to do, and it's not cheap.
It's not cheap at all. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the BDCP amplifiers, sound a lot more powerful than they really are, as far as if you do an equal comparison with those amps versus other models, because they do keep the power leveled out based on impedance. So that's definitely and we didn't really talk about this much beforehand, but I think it goes without saying that a lot of the progression, as far as what would you say, engineering mainly in car audio, a lot of that has to be credited to Rockford Fosgate, because a lot of the stuff going way back to Jim Fosgate, the punch EQ circuit, that was like a major thing, to have that ability to adjust bass and treble in the car. And then going from that to like symmetry, having this computer in your car that's got all different kind of modules and everything like that, to all the other things at Rockford. I'm sure Eric's probably going to tell me some of the things I missed, but, just thinking about kind of the history and the timeline of the products that Rockford has developed over the years, it's really, if you look back over time, it's really tough to think where the industry would be without a company like Rockford Fosgate.
Yeah, and Jim Fosgate was a great founder, a great visionary. Of course, he split off to do home theater in his later years, and then eventually won an Emmy for his work with Dolby Pro Logic 2. So that was quite the epiphany, literally, that he had with that circuit. But you were talking about Wayne Harris and Symmetry and Jim Fosgate. What's interesting is the punch EQ. A lot of people don't know. They think it's just a bass knob. Punch EQ, Jim Fosgate took the problem of the acoustic environment of an automobile, and he measured the frequency response. And he realized there's 2 similarities in whatever type of vehicle that I seem to be driving. There seems to be low bass roll-off, and at the high end, there's like a shelving effect where the material in the vehicle actually diminishes the high frequency range. So he built the punch EQ 45 hertz, 0 dB to 18 dB on the low end to help fill in for the low end. And then he built a hinge filter, which was about 1 kilohertz on up to 18 kilohertz. And it basically was literally a hinge. So they worked really different. One was a boost, and then the other one was a hinge filter, but that helped bring back the missing pieces of the audio. So that way you could have full sound. And of course, Jim went on further to develop more Fosgate Audionics components, and he did the Fosgate Gavotte. And that was actually his work with trying to develop a true surround sound processor. So in 1998, 99, Jim had an epiphany. We were actually working with him on some Hafler home theater, Fosgate Audionics home theaters products. And he had an epiphany, and he was able to figure out how to take a left and right signal and create a 5-channel surround sound out of that. And with that was the birth of Dolby Pro Logic 2. And again, that's where he did win an Emmy award for that work. And we were the first company to put Dolby Pro Logic 2 circuitry into a consumer electronic piece. And that was the RFQ 5000. I was extremely fortunate. My Dodge Durango at the time, I had just purchased it because my Nissan was starting to give up, and I sold it. My Dodge Durango became the company demo vehicle, and we put the RFQ 5000 in that vehicle because it was, it's a very large cabin. You could definitely do a 5-channel surround, and it had lots of dash area to do a center channel. So when we were finishing it up, actually Brian Schmidt of Now Mobile Solutions was working on the vehicle and did all the fabrication for that. When he was done and basically putting the knobs on at CES, Jim Fosgate came to the booth to do the debut, and he personally tuned the Durango and did the tweeter placement because the tweeters were in the side pillars and you could angle them. So he figured out exactly precisely where he wanted those, did the any sort of EQ adjustment, and then dialed in any other adjustments that needed to be made, phase, equalization, bass treble, so forth. And yeah, he finished the vehicle. We all sat in it, and it was amazing. Like, we've never heard anything like that before, just out of a stereo left and right signal. And then soon after, CNN picked up the story, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. I love to hear the behind the scenes stuff like this and the history. And I'm sure I've read before about Jim's Emmy and everything with Dolby Pro Logic 2, but just hearing it again and hearing how it's related to car audio. And again, we're talking about, some of the things that Rockford has helped develop over the years, this being another one, even for home audio. Tony DeMore a few years ago sent me an RFQ 5000. I've got one here. So that's cool. I'm gonna have to play with that and maybe make that a future video, because a lot of the equipment like that, and you've probably seen, Eric, the MP3 changer that I got recently that's got the little SD cards or MMC cards. Sometimes you take a chance and maybe it's not the best idea, but hey, you don't know unless you take the chance, right? Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the kind of things you have to do. You have to be willing to take the risk. Yeah. And I think you guys have proven over the years that, you've had a lot of hits. You've had a few maybe not so good, but most of them have been hits. So that's what's awesome too. Gosh, I'm just getting so excited here about some things on the app. I apologize. Calm me down, Rob. I'm not drinking.
Well, I've got actually something special about that MP3 player.
Go ahead.
I was going to bring it on tonight, but maybe we'll save it for a future episode. But it's a product that has never seen the light of day. So we'll just keep it at that. Literally nobody has seen it outside of the company. So we'll just save that for a future episode.
Teaser for the win. Don't you love it, Rob?
I mean, he hit us with the top secret knowledge.
We have got more secrets to tell tonight too. So if you guys are watching this live, make sure you stay all the way to the end. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you listen all the way to the end, even if you can't stand to hear what I say when I talk. Appreciate having Eric on here so you can hear somebody other than me talking. So anyway, let's jump back a little bit. And when we're talking about gear, I know you said that your Power 300 got stolen or whatever. Is there one piece of gear either that you don't want to give up, or is there a piece that you really want that you never had? Anything like that as far as the historical pieces go?
Yeah, I think the Power 1000 5-channel, the 25 to life version, we did have an overage of those when we made them, because the expense of doing so many modifications to an amplifier to produce it for market, you kind of have to make your money back a little bit, right? So we did have some extra amplifiers, and that's the one amplifier that I wish I would have picked up. My old boss, that was director of marketing, actually reached out to me a couple weeks ago and said that he was selling it with the Fender limited edition guitar that we released with the 25 to life. Now, there were only 25 of those guitars ever made that here in the USA. There are several that were made in Mexico, the copies, but the original, there were only 25 made, and he was selling the guitar and the amplifier and would not break them apart. So I couldn't grab that one. It was a little too expensive for my budget.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I know that we all have things we could go back. We wish we could do differently, but it is what it is. But hey, maybe somebody who's out there listening or something, has a Power 1025 to life that they could hook you up. I think you might need to dig through some boxes there at the office or somewhere. There's probably got to be one buried somewhere, right?
Just go to Schultz's. Just go to Schultz's house and get one of the probably 10 or 15 he has.
He'll never miss it. Yeah. He's got plenty of extras.
So yeah, Michael Schultz is always, there's an open invitation for me to go over there and photograph and help document some of the stuff. He definitely has probably one of the largest collections of Rockford Fosgate history in his possession. There's another gentleman in Europe that has a fairly large collection, but I think Michael's is pretty much the peak of that. He's been a great friend. He does a lot for the community. He, carefully restores Rockford Fosgate products. I know that he's been working on screen print and fine-tuning his techniques, and he never ships out refurbished or a gently repaired product unless it's got the final touch on it that he is looking for. So he's put a lot of effort into it. He's done great for the vintage community, for the old school stereo community, for the old Rockford Fosgate community, and we really appreciate all the work that he's done for that.
This speaks right to the nostalgia of this is what got us back into car audio. And, it's at some point, the nostalgia, it gets you into car audio, and then it helps you kind of oh, well, why don't I check out this new stuff? I like collecting the amps I could never afford now. Let's check out the new stuff, see what it does. How does nostalgia play into, your personal experience and maybe even Rockford Fosgate's business experience?
That's a great question. So there is a lot of misinformation that's out on the internet. They don't believe that Rockford Fosgate still has the same heart, soul, passion that we did in the 80s and 90s. And it's actually, we still do. I still work here because I love coming to work. I basically come to a playground every day. And when I've had a bad day, I realize, Eric, you got to keep going. There's 40 other people that would die to have your job here at Rockford. And that really helps push me more and more and more to develop and create content that, a lot of our users really could use. So when it comes to vintage product, we have a really high bar. And the good thing is, it's not hard to continue on that path. If you had a bad product in the beginning, you can overcome that. But, we've always set the bar pretty high. The performance has always been pretty high. And we make sure the new engineers that come in to work for Rockford Fosgate, they know, when I work on a product, let's say this new Prime amplifier, it has to reach this certain level. They know that our product is underrated per se. They know that it's going to deliver more than what we promise, because we need to provide that value to the customers, because that's what they expect from us. And we try to not live that down. So even I say, with this new Prime amplifier, there was a lot of development that went into it, because the first generation, second generation, Prime is a pretty much newer platform compared to the older vintage days of the Punch 150 and the Power 1000. But it is a much more efficient package. We can get slightly smaller in package and provide a lot of dynamic output with such a small footprint. So there's always that ability to can we push it further? Can we push it further? But what is the safe limit? We always have to keep that in mind too, because we want to make sure that it lasts, and we want to make sure that you can enjoy it and not have it thermal or shut down, while you're driving to and from work or school.
Yeah, that's true. And that's a great point, Eric. And before we go too much further, I wanted to thank the people who are giving us the super chats. We'll get to you guys shortly. I know you had some questions. We'll get to you, but just to let you know, we're not ignoring you, we will get to you. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We greatly appreciate that. What I wanted to go back a little bit to was talking about some of the nostalgia. I've told Eric this before. I've told Rob, and I'm probably have told everybody who's watching this, who's seen this before. But I kind of got out of car audio in the mid 90s, like 95, 96, just lost interest. I got into home theater. At the time, there was surround sound. There wasn't the Pro Logic, but there was a regular surround sound. Got into movies and all that stuff. And then about 2004, a buddy of mine sent me a message. He's like, "Hey, have you seen the new Punch 45 Rockford's come out with?" And I'm like, "What?" So I go check it out, and it's the 25 to life Punch 45. They did a 45, 75, 150, and a 1000. And I'm like, I was just enamored by that. Of course, I went to the site, and Eric, I know you've worked on the website part of Rockford for quite a while. Were you part of the website for the 25 to life? Was that part of your job back then, or was that somebody else?
Yes, I've maintained the website here at Rockford Fosgate since 1995. There was a little bit of a transition where I was helping out in 94. And in 92, I was kind of doing a lot of owner's manuals. So I've had my hands on a lot of the historical part of the company. But yes, when we came out with the 25 to life, that was a huge, huge opportunity. Dealers loved it. Fanatics loved it that we were doing it. And so we literally, the demand was so high by the time we went to CES, we had a big poster board on the wall, and it had every single serial number, not serial number, but amplifier 1, amplifier 2, amplifier 3. So we had them, and if you were going to buy in those amplifiers, you had to reserve those and sign your name to them. So that way we could allocate those first batch serial numbers to dealer A and the second batch of amplifiers to dealer B. So yeah, it was a big deal. And so that's when our director of marketing at the time worked with Fender to create that guitar, that limited edition guitar, to help kick it off. Because it was just a great American iconic product line, working with another American product line. And yeah, the 25 to life is, ironically, later on, after we had come back from CES and kind of got calmed down and went back to business as usual, we were switching the buildings around, and we came up with the building that room that I'm looking at right now. That was the executive conference room, and they needed a name for it. And I was lucky enough to propose 25 to life, and it stuck. And so now if you come here to Rockford Fosgate, that meeting room is dedicated to all the employees that have worked here 25 years or longer, and they get their name on the plaque, and it's called 25 to life.
That's too cool. That, it's interesting to me, first off, the history of all that, and the fact that at that time, I always wondered, and you were involved with the website and probably some of the marketing and all that, but did people really understand a 45 watt amp in 2005 that's going to cost, what was it, $399 or whatever for the Punch 45? And that, I know for us retro guys, it was really cool, and probably had a lot of people who had known Rockford over the years. But did the people who were currently in the market did they understand that? Because it seemed like Crutchfield had to explain it a lot. This is not really a 25 watt amp, it's really 400 watts or whatever. Well, I just wonder how that worked as far as the company mentality of, hey, we're going to super underrate these in order to kind of bring up some nostalgia.
It's cyclical, actually. So we see this happening it comes and goes in the marketplace. Again, I've been here for 30 years, so I've seen the market, what happens to it. And you always seem where you get a high number of amplifiers in the market that have like these ginormous numbers, and consumers are like, wait a minute, I paid $35 for this 10,000 watt amplifier, and it doesn't produce a lot of bass. And then you get to, companies like Rockford Fosgate that per se underrate their amplifiers, conservatively rate them. And then they realize, wow, I spent $199 or $149 but it delivered like 3 times more bass than I was ever expecting to get out of the amplifier. So you kind of see that come and go. We always have to explain what's the difference between RMS and dynamic power. So you can rate, like I was saying before, you can rate an amplifier at any wattage that you want to. Really, there's no law that says you can't rate that at 55 watts. But there have been organizations and certifications built up over the years that help make that buying and that decision choice easier at the consumer level. And one of those is called CEA 2006. It's now CTA 2006A. It's a specification that a good friend of mine, Gary Springay, was fortunate enough to work on for the EIA. And it is a specification that basically says you need to test the amplifier with these parameters. Therefore, we can measure the output power this way. And that way you can compare apples to oranges, in the marketplace. You can compare a Rockford to, another company that follows those guidelines. So, those certifications have been very valuable because it basically weeds out a lot of the liars and a lot of the people that say, oh, I'm doing 5,000 watts and it really does, 125 times 2. So yeah, rated power has always been a big thing that we've had to explain over and over and over again. But it's just like we consider, when you put your car on the track and actually race it, you're going to get different performance out of it than what it says on the spec sheet. Just like our amplifiers, you're going to get better performance out of it than what is on the spec sheet. So at least we're in a good position where, when you're investing in a Rockford Fosgate amplifier, you're going to get more than what you're expecting. So that's always on the good side of history.
Yeah, and I could speak to the overperformance. Just recently, viewer of ours that come to the meet, Eric Dudley, he has a little Prius. He had a Prime 750 on 2-punch P312s. And let me tell you, man, that thing is absolutely brutal. Out of a Prius and 750 watts, he said he's bought the 1200 watt amp now, so that the Prime 1200. So who knows what it's going to do now?
Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, it was you thought he was multiple thousand watts. You could hear him so far away. And we went over there. What have you got? He's like, this little amp. All right, what? That little amp? Those 12s? Yeah, it was pretty insane.
Yeah, in fact, unfortunately, one of a good friend that I met here at Rockford when I was in tech support did recently pass away. His name was Steve Floyd, and I met him when he was working at Hammond's Electronics in Ohio, and he built Eric Parsley's little Geo vehicle. And I was asking the installer, like, are you sure that you're building a wall in this car? And he sent me photos and everything, so I understood what he was up against. So yeah, this became one of the loudest vehicles in Ohio, and it was very nice. At the memorial, Eric Parsley did put one of the Rockford Fosgate punch subwoofers in with all of his memorial stuff, because Steve Floyd was a guy that loved bass. He loved building systems. He loved building loud things, and it was just great to see that passion still was with him after so many years.
Yeah, that's a great story, Eric. That's we think about, car audio has been around for a while. So some of the people who were in it, Jim Fosgate for one, Steve Floyd, these people are kind of getting up in their ages, the ones who are still with us. So, things like 12 Volt Talk here, what we do every week is we like to get people like you, people like them, people that can tell us stories and history, because a lot of this stuff, if it's not told, maybe told down the family line, but those people don't care about car audio or whatever, and the stories don't stay out there. That's why we like to kind of keep this information out there, and once you put it on YouTube, it's going to stay out there. So right. We appreciate you taking the time to join us so we can get some of these stories and some of the history. There was one thing that I asked you that may be a little tough question, but I have to ask it anyway. You have a favorite part about working in car audio, and then you have a least favorite part of working in car audio. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite parts is like I said before, I love coming to work here My wife doesn't always understand that, but I'm like a kid at a playground. Like, I come to develop products and support material that fanatics really, really enjoy. And that is really cool. That's a super cool part of it. I mean, if you can get paid while you do things that you love, that's just a win-win situation. That's probably one of the best things that I can carry with me, is I feel good about the work that I do, because people do use it. One of the things that does frustrate me a lot, I am on a lot of, would you say, consumer type teams. So I look and I listen at all the social media channels. So I listen to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I answer almost all those questions. Every single question on YouTube, I personally answer. Whenever there's some customer that feels like they've been done wrong, sometimes I get pulled in to help mediate some sort of agreement with the customer to help them understand, we have a warranty for you. We can help you, let us try to get you a replacement product, so sometimes those things are a little frustrating. And sometimes, if I can be real frank, sometimes people are jerks. I worked in tech support for, way back in RTTI. So that was about 1995. So yeah, I was doing technical support, answering phone calls all day long. And so right now we've got, it's about a 60-40 spread of end users to dealers. So, dealers, you have a priority, and a lot of them understand because they're on a time limit. You need to provide support for that product at that time and get them back on the road so that the customer gets their vehicle, when 5 o'clock comes and they're ready to pick it up. And, so we also have consumers that call in directly that are trying to do it yourself. And sometimes they just don't understand, which is fine. They don't understand how to install the product or how to configure it. Totally okay. And we try to walk them through it. But what's frustrating sometimes is when you're trying to do your best to help the customer and they're just jerks. And that's not cool because, I'm just a regular car audio guy. I mean, I know I wear the Rockford Fosgate colors, but I go home to my wife and kid just like everybody else. I'd love to have a hot meal and just rest and relax and come back and make sure that we support more customers and give the best that we can. And it's usually in those people that have ever worked in the service industry. If you've ever been a server, waiter, cashier, or something like that, customer service, phone lines, call center, you guys know what it's like. And there's this community where it's like, it's okay if something breaks or if you accidentally break it. If you're nice goes a long way. There's been problems, where a customer just accidentally broke something. And but they were adamant and being real, combative. And it just gets to the point where it's like, gosh, I need to help you, but you're really making this hard on me, and if you were just nice, I would bend over backwards. If you accidentally dropped it and broke it, I would bend over backwards to replace that for you. Nice goes a long way.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I agree. I think everybody should work in the retail segment in some way. That should be part of, growing up. Maybe in high school, everybody should be required to as part of high school. Because if you don't, then everything you just said doesn't make sense, right? Because if you go into a store, you have a certain mindset. Well, I'm here, I've got money. They should, help me or do this for me. But if you're on the other, shoes on the other foot and you're actually there and having to deal with that and deal with everything else that goes on, it's tough. Working in retail is tough. So I could fully understand that part of it. And the other part of that is some people you're just not going to satisfy. It doesn't matter what you do. And you waste a lot of time dealing with issues like that. But it's the whole rule of there's always going to be one or two that are that way. And for me, when I worked in retail, this is a little bit off topic, but it seems that whenever the day started with a bad one, that whole day was that way. So I just knew it. I was like, oh, it's time to go home now because I know it's going to be a horrible day. But I fully understand and appreciate that.
I have an unforeseen or that you might not have thought about, but I wonder if this happens to you. So your normal life, your normal people, the kids' soccer coach, they find out, you work for Rockford Fosgate. In my case, I have a YouTube channel, I have a podcast, and they're wanting to know about it. And then they have this picture of what you are. It could be 140 dB system with no sound dampening material at all and vape rolling out the window. Typically, that's what they think. How often does that happen to you?
All the time, literally all the time. Now, when I was in my 20s and 30s, my vehicles were demo vehicles. And like I was saying earlier, my Durango was the company demo vehicle. So anytime I was driving a demo vehicle around, it's got Rockford Fosgate plastered over. Of course, people want to see it and they want to listen to it. And that's great because, we've got fans all around the US, around the world. But yeah, sometimes, it's like, hey, I'm, with my family and I'm trying to just get in and out of dinner, but I'll take care of you and I'll write their name down and send them a shirt or something like that. So sometimes that happens. But yeah, you're always asked about, can you give me a deal? It's always that type of thing. Can you get me a deal? And it's like, I get the same deal as if I worked at Sonic, right? You get the employee deal, which is, makes it a little bit easier on your checkbook, but overall, you're still pretty much paying for the product. So people think that a lot of things come free, which they don't. But yeah, I get a lot of that. And sometimes that's frustrating, but you just kind of have to wing it and just keep trudging on.
Yes, we do. Keep charging onward. So speaking of that, shift gears just a little bit. But before I shift gears, there's one other thing I wanted to ask about, and I know Mike Schultz would kill me if I didn't ask this. The old Rockford logo, we call it Dracula because it looks like Dracula. Please tell me that in the future, sometime, maybe retro, you guys are going to use that again for some product or something. I know you can't talk about whatever you guys are coming out with, but I think, I don't know. I just think it'd be really cool if there was some type of a retro or 30-year, 40-year, whatever, we're getting close to another top of the year, I think, for Rockford, because it was 1980, I think, right, when Fosgate and Rockford kind of
June of
came together.
Yep.
So, we're actually, this year is a big year, but I just thought if I don't ask that question about the Dracula logo, has there been any talks about that, or is there any interest in Rockford at all about bringing back an old logo like that?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. We don't really talk too much about the Dracula logo. There's trademark and registration and so forth that goes with that. And we have a lot invested in tooling with the current logo. So, I do bring this up at occasional marketing meetings. Hey, people would love to see this. And so you did actually hit on something super cool. This is our 40th year. We were incorporated. We bought the assets from Jim Fosgate in 1980. Camelback Investment Group here in Phoenix, Arizona did buy it. And we actually set up residence right here in Tempe, Arizona. And we've been here ever since. Ironically, it was still Fosgate Audionics when we purchased the company. And we took the name of the street, which is Rockford Drive, and we made Rockford Fosgate. So that's actually how the name started. But what we did, ironically, since it's our 40th anniversary, this is just a coincidence. Our longtime screen printer here in Mesa, they were changing the warehouse, or they were selling the warehouse or something, and they came across a corner in the warehouse. And we get this all the time. Can you look in the warehouse? Can you look in your buildings to see, is there one more punch 8-inch HE woofer back there in the corner that you can dust off and send me? And, a lot of those have been sold off. But at a third party, our screen printer, they actually found some Rockford Fosgate memorabilia. So they found some T-shirts, and here's one of them, kind of the punch logo. We have not used this in quite a long time. This is kind of more of the 80s style of T-shirt. You'll see the wild colors on the back. So it's really cool to go through these palettes and see how much product they actually had. This is another neon one. This is super cool.
Oh, yeah, that screams 90s.
Totally. Here's another classic one. Right when I started was the red Rockford Fosgate shirt.
That is cool. Those things look brand new. Obviously, they are brand new. They've just been,
this is still sealed in the package. I'm going to bring it up so that you can see the label. It still has the label. It's obviously discolored, but it's still in a package. So we have a lot of these shirts, and we want to kick that here off with you and Hi-Fi Vega to announce that Rockford Fosgate wants to do a contest, and 12 Volt will be basically the first people to give these t-shirts away. So we're going to be announcing the contest a little bit later, but we want to give you guys first shot at announcing this and giving our diehard fanatics, diehard car audio enthusiasts the chance to actually get some of this original Punch merchandise. Now, there's some stipulations because we don't have all the sizes for everything. Of course, this is literally just found in the warehouse. So we've got, some small, some medium, some large, some extra large. So these will most likely be a random batch that you would win. But in any case, we'll be revealing that. And we wanted to make sure that all the fanatics knew that we did actually find something in the warehouse this time. And it's some cool t-shirts.
That is super cool. Super cool that you just ran across that. And
oh man, people's gonna go nuts over that.
They are gonna go nuts for sure. That is awesome.
Especially the red.
But what's the chances? It's your 40th anniversary, and wow, we just turned up some shirts. That one almost looks big enough for me.
You could squeeze in it, even if it's
maybe. Well, yeah. So you guys who are watching right now, you got, obviously you got right in on the ground floor here. I was talking about this. This is going to be something big coming up. So you're going to hear more about it. You'll hear more about it from Rockford. You hear more about it from us as well. So very exciting stuff that's coming up here shortly. Maybe win you a free t-shirt, a vintage t-shirt.
Right. That's
super, super awesome. So, and thanks for bringing that up. And I want to jump just a little bit because we've gone through eating up our time, which I'm cool with because we've had such a great discussion, but we did want to talk about some of the newer products and get your ideas. One of the big questions that Rob and I like to ask a lot of the manufacturers is, we see the challenges these days with integrating car audio systems into the factory systems. I just bought an F-150. It's got the B&O system. You have to buy a $550 adapter to get preamp outputs of the factory system. So what do you think about the difficulties today with trying to get aftermarket car audio into these cars that have these premium systems and the difficulties involved with that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Derek. And the dashes are getting more complex. It's harder to replace the radio, and sometimes it's just not worth it. The electrical is tied in, the dimming is tied in, the air conditioning controls are tied in. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense to pull that radio out. And I know Dean and Fernando at 5 Star Stereo worked with you on your Ford, and those guys are really great with understand electrical systems of modern vehicles. And we get a lot of questions here at Rockford Fosgate. Why don't you make more source units? And I'm going to be completely honest with you. When we were developing source units with our partner Delco Electronics, we were wrapping a $20 bill around each radio that we sold. So it was a losing system, but we were trying to break into the source unit market while selling a lot of aftermarket as well to try to make up for that so that we could gain a foothold. And now that vehicles have more complex electronics, it just doesn't make sense. So we've actually invested a lot of time and effort into integration products like the DSR1 and the 360 type topologies. And this retails for about $269. And it's basically like a black box, and it lets you retain the source unit in the car. That way you don't have to worry about messing up the dash, but you can put this black box in and then still run all your aftermarket amplifiers. You can still put, on a factory system, probably about 600 watts worth of power, and, a couple 12s, some component systems in the doors. But stuff like this, this was actually a partnership with iData Maestro. Now, iData Maestro, their specialty is remote turn-on systems. So like in colder weather climates, you push the button, car warms up, you get out and you're nice and toasty. Well, because they know how to talk to electrical systems, we partnered with them. We're good with the audio side. They're really great with the integration side. So together it was a natural fit. And we developed this, it's really a disruptive processor because of the price and because of the functionality. Like, this allows you to keep your factory radio and add all your aftermarket products. And that's actually where we've been investing in, is products like this. Now I'm going to show you something that we use internally. A lot of people don't know how to set up a DSP, or if you do know how to set up a DSP, you're used to just, one microphone like what we've got here. You put the microphone as if you were sitting in the seat, and then you use your iPad to dial in the adjustments, and whatever sounds good, sounds great. But what happens if your wife is short and you're very tall? How do you adjust that? Well, we've got a really cool tool that I'm going to show you. And this is a 6-mic multiplexer that we built here. Actually, Mike Koza did build this, one of the engineers that used to work here. And this actually is a multiplexer that uses 6 microphones. There's a left and a right on the high, a left and right in the mid, and a left and right in the low setting. So what this does is it mimics a tall person, an average height person, and a short person in an automobile. And this, of course, would be their left ear, and this would be their right ear. And what this does is this feeds into the multiplexer, and it basically sums the signal so that you can get a running average of what that response looks like. Now, when we were working with Nissan to develop, a good little factory installed system, we used this type of device so that way we knew how to tune a digital signal processor. So we use this type of machinery. It's very expensive, so I'm super appreciative that the engineering group let me borrow it and take it over here into marketing. But it does allow us to kind of normalize the signal and help you still get that aftermarket sound, and make sure that you're covering, several different drivers in the automobile. Like I say, your wife, maybe your son, maybe you. You all sit in the driver's seat different. You may move the seat up, you may move it back, but your head level is at a different height. And things like this multiplexer help us integrate into the factory system so that you can retain that radio, so that you can add the aftermarket amplifiers.
And now you're really speaking Derek's language when you're talking about a very niche tool that's somewhat obtuse. Like, that's right up, that's big D territory right
I'm
there.
building one next week.
Yeah.
I'll get with your engineering guys. We'll get the specs.
So the DSR1, now, is that an automatic DSP, or do you have some manual control over it as the end user?
There's 2 ways to do it. There is the DSR1 can be set up in what's called like a universal mode, so that you manually have to set everything up. And it basically lets you tap into it as a normal digital signal processor. And then there's what's called Maestro Mode, and you pull down a configuration from the website, and it programs this to talk to the radio. And so that is all automatic. It takes care of the door chimes and all the interfacing with the factory system. That part is automatic, but you still can use your iPad to tune the output. So it does a lot of different things. There's 2 main functions: universal mode and then Maestro Mode. And Maestro Mode is half of it is automatically done for you.
Okay, so what product do you have that would be, I guess you guys maybe still sell the 360?
Mm-hmm.
6? Is that still your DSP that you guys currently sell?
Yeah, the 360.3 is actually the big brother processor. The DSR1 is the little brother processor. And the main difference is the 360.3 has summing signal capability. So in a lot of modern cars, if you got, say, a 5 or 7 speaker system, there is a separate set of components that are only providing a small, narrow bandwidth of frequency range. Well, you can't necessarily tap, out of the source unit to get a full 20 to 20 kilohertz audio signal. So you actually need to tap into the front tweeter, the front mid-range, and the front mid-bass to get, per se, that 20 to 20 kilohertz range. And that's where the 360.3 comes into play, because it can sum and normalize those signals together and produce a full range frequency sound so that you can send it to your amplifiers. The DSR-1 does not do that. And that's why there's such a price difference, because that is a patented topology, and there's a lot that goes on, a lot of horsepower needed to do that and sum all those signals together.
That's a great explanation. Thanks for that, Eric. And, it's a great answer to the question, because the challenges that people have these days with integrating with their factory systems is there's no way around it. You can't change your head unit in most cases. So you have to figure out a way to get better sound. As we know, I did the video on the F-150. I don't know how much that B&O system costs, because it's part of a huge package that costs a lot of money. But, the fact that they're selling that as a premium system and it's just garbage, it's like, man, I could have spent probably $1,000 in decent aftermarket gear and it would have sounded a ton better. So I'm going to work on that coming up, but it's just, it's great to see that. I mean, you guys know this, that head units aren't the wave of the future, unless you're talking side by sides. But things like that, you have to stay with the market and understand where things are going, and people just can't swap their head units out anymore. So it's great that you guys are on top of that. And I know you make fantastic products for it. So thanks for sharing that. There was one other thing I wanted to get into before we're at the top of the hour, but I did want you to, if you had a minute, to talk about the Prom Amps. I think, was there anything else other than the Prom Amps that were released at CES this year?
So we announced these at SEMA, and these are all new designs. There are 8 models. There's one, get my cheat sheet out here, because I know you guys are going to ping me on this. So there's 1 2-channel amp, there's 3 multi-channel amps, and there's 4 mono amplifiers. So they range anywhere from about 169 to 379. But it's a 3rd generation prime amplifier design. We have taken all the success stories from the 1st and 2nd generation and fine-tuned it. So what's super cool with this is it now took the Big Brother clean circuit, which helps you set up your gains, and it's now in the Prime series, the R2 series. So that is a big improvement to this amplifier line. So you've got some punch features in the R2 series, and it still has all the crossovers, the bass EQ that comes with it, and all the same types of connectors that have been proven to be, very durable. Top mounted controls, that way it's super easy to adjust. But yeah, the clean circuit is probably one of the biggest selling features of this that a lot of people are really excited about.
Yeah, that's cool. Those are clean. Just the design of those is just really a clean look to it.
I do think it's a aesthetic upgrade. Although the old Prom Amps did look pretty good, but
these are sharp, and the dynamic output power of these, so you're still going to get way more than what you expect out of it. And of course, these actually got upgraded as well, because we used to use a different sheet for Prime series that just had a couple pieces of data. So now you're getting a punch series set of data points, and it actually shows. So this 400 watt amplifier is doing 604 watts. And so this is punch level performance at a really, really great value.
Every time we do one of these shows, I want to go out and buy everything you guys are talking about. I really have to stop myself, because there's only so much stuff I could test, and I only have 3 vehicles to play with.
Well, we've got some other stuff too. We came out with these new lighted speakers for motorsports and marine applications. So I'm not sure if you can see the color. I've just tuned it into purple right now, but you can control the color on your iPhone or your Android. There's a little app that comes with it, and when you buy the color app optics controller with these speakers, these new line, and it allows you to choose any RGB color code that you want. So these are super fun on a boat, especially if you have like a party barge. These are really, really great at night.
Yeah, those look pretty cool. Changing colors, like my little display back here behind me, and change my colors too. See that? Green.
Yeah, fancy.
Yeah, it's fancy. Well, Eric, I know we're, right here at the top of the hour, and we've wow, I could go on for a much longer, but I do respect your time, and so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and end the podcast unless there's anything else. Obviously we want to send people to rockfordfosgate.com, check you out on social media, facebook.com/rockfordfosgate, go to the Instagram. Is there anywhere else you want to point people to go check you out at?
Yep, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Those are all our very popular channels. If you need to get a hold of technical support, we have live chat at the bottom of rockfordfosgate.com. So during work hours, you'll see that live chat button available. You're going to get direct to Steve, Forrest, or Brian in the back. And they work with the installation bay and the new products group bay. So if there's any sort of question that you have on a product, those guys are the experts, and they can help you out any way they can.
Before we sign off, I got to ask one question. We can discuss it further in the Amps and Ramps section of the podcast after show. Were you ever into BMX? Did you BMX at all?
I was. So the funny thing, I used to have a red line, and my father made me a deal. He's like, son, he worked full time. He owned his own pharmacy here in Gilbert, Arizona. And he said, hey, if you get all A's and B's, I will buy you whatever BMX bike you want. And of course, game on, right? Because I had my mind set on this red line for, a couple years. Came home with the report card, and he said, okay, Mises, I'm going to take Eric to go to the bike store, and we're going to go get him a new bike. And we came back, and I was the proudest kid ever. That was the coolest thing that my dad did for me. And I raced here in Chandler, Arizona. There's still the BMX track on McQueen between Chandler Boulevard and Pecos is Fry. And it's still just a little dirt track. And I was really into BMX, especially when the movie Rad came out. Yeah. I actually went to school with one of the guys from the Schwinn racing team, Brett. I can't remember his last name, but he was on a commercial on national TV for the Schwinn motor park racing team. And so, I was totally into BMX. I crashed a lot. My ankle still pops because of a lot of the crashes that I've done. I'm lucky that I never got hit by a car, honestly, because we would jump out into Gilbert Road at the time. And there was this nice little new development, and they had this great little ravine to catch the water, and we would come out. And unfortunately, that was the entrance to this brand new housing development. And we're just very fortunate that we never got hit by a car because we did dumb things back then. But big BMX guy.
I'm so glad that both the BMX guys we've had on here were redline riders. Derek's a diehard Haro guy, which I did like the Haros too. But real riders ride redline. Am I right?
Hey, I wanted an RL20 freestyler. I just couldn't afford it. So.
And the pedals of choice at the time were the Hutch Bear Claws. Remember?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They had the spikes literally like this. So my buddy Paul Lemaire got a pair, and I rode it, and I'm like, gosh, dang, you better not slip up because your shins are going to be meat.
I don't think you could slip those pedals if you wanted to. they would just grab onto your shoes and not let go.
Yeah, those were serious. I remember they were $100 a pair too.
Yeah.
Well, a little side jag for you. HutchBMX.com is back. They're doing retro stuff, and I'm waiting for them to come out with their pedals again because they keep selling out. But they've got the mini ones. They don't have the full size ones yet. But they sell the cranks, they sell the trick stars, they sell 26, 29 inch reproduction models. don't go there because you're going to want to buy one, and your wife's going to get all mad at me for telling you about it. But yeah, hutchbmx.com. They're back. It's not.
We're too old to get our shins busted up like that anymore.
Well, hey, people bet me that I couldn't ride a wheelie, and I made some money off the deal. So hey,
that was impressive, actually, that you pulled that off, because I would have probably not done that. Did you have a uni seat? Did you have one of those?
Back in the day, I had a uni seat. Yeah.
Nowadays, I would probably crack it because I'm.
I have to have a grandma seat now. So I'm a big dude. What can I say? But anyway, wow, this is cool. Like I said, we had so much more we wanted to discuss, but we're kind of out of time for tonight. But what we'd like to do, Eric, is I know you're a busy guy. Maybe sometime in the future we can get you back and we can go through some of the rest of this. And maybe if you guys have got new products out by then, we can talk about that as well. We'd love to have you back on sometime if you would be willing to do that. And again, thank you for your time tonight. Make sure you check out rockfordfosgate.com and check out some of their products as well. Been making quality products for many, many, many years. And Eric, thanks again for your time tonight, telling us the stories, telling us about your 30-year career with Rockford Fosgate. Very impressive. And I can say that you've represented the company well here, and we can tell that you're a fanatic. Just like when Rob and I went to Kicker, you talked about this a little bit before too, about saying, hey, these people aren't fanatics about their company and they don't care about that. And we'd love to come see Rockford one day, by the way, too, and visit with you guys. But when we go to a place like Rockford or Kicker or JL, wherever, and you get to meet the people that work there, it really puts a whole new light on their products. And I think, even having you here, talking to you in person and feeling your enthusiasm of the product and, how important the company is to you, your passion, it really means a lot to the community to understand that people like you are working on products that we can purchase that, make our sound better. And we just know that, hey, this is just not something that came off the shelf that you bought from China. This is something that has gone through a full product development cycle. A lot of people invest a lot of time and energy into this. And that's the part where it goes without saying, it's very important. And we appreciate everything that you guys do. We know that you charge a little bit more, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good point. I'd like to real quick. There's obviously an open invitation for you, Derek. We've tried to work on that a little bit on the sidebar. But this is an open invitation to any fanatic that is in the Tempe or Phoenix area. Now, please just give us a little bit of a heads up. But I would personally love to show you around. I'll show you all of marketing, which is where I'm sitting right now. We've got a great team here. I'll show you around new product development, engineering, the labs, the sound rooms. You're going to see some really cool stuff. So that's an open invitation. I'd love to have you come down and really see the people behind the brand.
That's awesome. Rob, we're going to have to try to figure that into our SEMA trip next year somehow.
We have to make a pit stop on.
The SEMA trip is turned into a very long 2-week vacation or something, but we'll have to try that. But real quick before we go we wanted to give a quick shout out to our super chats, the Third Era, Brad at Legends of Car Audio, Byron Chambliss, and DOHC 2C 79 Civic. Appreciate you guys supporting us and sending the super chats. As always, if you're watching us live, make sure you stick around for a little bit, because once we end the podcast, we always stay on and kind of go through some of the questions that have popped up along the way. And check us out, youtube.com/12etalk. That's where we like to send most people. You can also check us out on Facebook on our 12etalk. You can see us. You can catch the audio version only on Google Play, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and any of the other podcatcher apps that you use to listen to your podcast. You can catch this version. We usually go live on Sunday of the same week with the episode that was recorded the previous Wednesday. We do our show typically every other Wednesday, but we actually are having another show next week on Wednesday. So we're doing 3 in a row. Rob, you have to forgive me, but we are got some special guests coming on. And once again, Eric from Rockford Fosgate, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time tonight, and we will have you on again sometime. And for everybody here listening. Rob.
Out of here.
Thanks, everybody. Okay. Cool deal, man. Let's go through real quick. There was a lot of questions. I'm gonna know whoever you guys, if you ask questions, you may have to do it again because we had so many scroll through, and our little app here only keeps like the last 40 or 50. So somebody mentions, and I can post this up, Eric. I don't know if can you see that on the screen, Eric?
Yeah.
Missed the days when amps were rated at 0.02% THD. That's something we didn't really bring up, but I think that is important because, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, the amps were rated at 12 volts or 12.8 volts, and they were rated at a really low THD, whereas today you see mostly 14.4 and 1%. So that is a very interesting comment there, and there was difference obviously in the power output based on that.
Yeah, so that's according to the CEA or the CTA 2006 standard. That is an industry-wide standard where most people cannot hear below 1% THD. So that became the standard at 1% THD and 14.4 volts. Electrical systems in vehicles are just much better than the old days. Before you just had a simple alternator or generator and your battery, and the alternator was typically undersized. Now there's a lot more electronics on a vehicle, and the charging system is a little bit more robust. So, you know, the ability for a system to easily put out 14.4 volts, you know, that's where that standard came from. So it became more of a practical way, so that all car audio amplifier manufacturers could basically play in the same space. Yes, you know, Orion's did do at 0.05 and Rockford was at 0.01 or 0.02. But we basically agreed that, look, we're all doing the right things. We're all trying to make sure that the customer gets good data to compare amplifiers to each other and make a good purchasing decision. And that's where it came about. It was more of just a compromise to make sure that we were still doing the right thing. So it wasn't just a matter of, well, we're just going to move up to 1% THD so we can get a bigger number. It had nothing to do with that. Just making sure that we could all play in the same space and agree upon it.
When y'all had that meeting, was Boss sick that day, or?
I've seen some dynos that you've done on that amplifier line, and
no comment, right?
Yeah,
that RMS term they use stands for really mean somebody. I'm not sure what it's not.
Well, I mean, once he said about the meeting, it was like a T-ball was just sitting right there, and I had to swing.
Knocked it out of the park.
You hit it all right.
Oh man.
Rockford Fosgate needs to make punch 45s again. So we hit on it just a little bit during the episode, but the nostalgia thing, has there been any talk, anything, I mean, obviously we just hit 40 this year, and we didn't hear anything about any new products coming, kind of retro products, but is that something that is any interest in the company within, possibly producing some retro products again?
There's always the opportunity to do that. The more feedback that we get direct from consumers helps drive the market. If we're getting those requests from dealers as well, then that's definitely something that the company would look at to make sure, because there's, as I kind of spoke earlier, there's a lot of tooling involved. When we did the 25 to life, we had to build a lot of amplifiers to make up for that tooling. So as goes down to, will you ever make an 18-inch subwoofer? Back before we did the T319, well, it took a lot of tooling to get to the T319, and we finally did it after years and years of people basically saying, do it. So yeah, the more feedback we get, the better those chances are of that actually happening.
This is a good question. Any plans for a Power Series 5-channel? Let me add a modifier onto that. Have you guys ever considered doing staggered powered amplifiers?
Well, there is a Power Series 5-channel amplifier. It's the T1000X5, and then we have the T1000X5AD. And I know, Derek, you showed that amplifier side by side with the old Chrome Power 1000, and it actually does more or equivalent power than the big brother way back in the early 90s. So there is a 5-channel amp. It is not exactly staggered. We did do staggered power. Sorry about that. We did do staggered power in our Lightning Audio. So I know a lot of fanatics are familiar with Lightning Audio. Lightning Audio was a couple blocks down from Rockford Corporation's headquarters. We acquired them, and then we started building amplifiers next door in our manufacturing facility. And we did some amplifiers that had staggered power then. But a lot of the requests that we get are just more standard, pretty much give me as much power as you can in that channel. Doesn't have to be staggered or linear, whatever. Just make sure, just try to get me as much power as possible in that small of a package as possible.
Yeah. How many watts do you want? All of them.
Right. All of them.
Yeah, that's an amazing little amp. I haven't actually tested it yet, but that's in the future plans to put that one up on the channel, because it's an amazingly small 5-channel for that much power.
Oh, you're welcome. That's great. Loving the history lesson. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. We appreciate that feedback. I was just scrolling through here. Rob, you're welcome. And if you see any that
I'm looking. Oh, here you go. 50 to life, 10 years from now.
there you go.
Hey,
It could
I
be.
like that.
So you missed the opportunity. You could have done, what's that Skid Row song? 18 to life.
18 to life. Yeah. Well, I think let's
it's
see.
a different 18 to life, but
Rockford was probably older than Skid Row.
Yeah.
So that probably wouldn't work, Rob.
when they were 18 though. 18-year anniversary instead of the 25.
I love it. That's a catchy phrase.
That is. We could have done another guitar.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Rob's looking for jobs. So hey, hey, y'all might need to talk afterwards here.
Yeah, I could drive, just drive back and forth to Arizona. No sweat.
That's right. A satellite location.
Oh man.
Yeah, and somebody asked this, and Eric's already given the answer. So yeah, if you just give them some heads up, then
Yeah. I mean, if you guys are thinking about doing a tour like this, do it. After what we done last year, it was it was just awesome. If you're watching this, you're into this stuff, you're going to enjoy a tour.
Yeah, I'll just repeat it real quick. Yeah, we do public tours here. Best to not just stop by, because we all have jobs to do. Just give us a heads up on social media or through our tech support line or customer service. Hey, I'm going to be in town on next week, or give us a day or so notice, and we'll just make sure that we schedule time. If it's not me, it'll be one of the other guys, and we'll be happy to take you around and show you everything that Rockford Fosgate has to offer.
That's very cool of you guys. I like Eric's response here for how to get a t-shirt. Whoever has the most Rockford stuff, I don't think he has anything but Rockford stuff in his car. So.
And I love the icon that you're using.
Yes.
That April Fool's joke that we did for that 50 to life hearing aid. I actually had a guy that worked at a hearing aid company thought that it was a real device. He thought, what type of DSP are you using in it? Sorry, my Siri is going.
Siri has
calm down, Siri. We're having a podcast.
That's right.
Mom, get off the phone.
Siri did that to me one time when I was in church. I was like in the third row, and it started talking. I can't hear you, Master D. I'm like, oh God, I couldn't get it to shut up.
So yeah, this audio guy was like kind of offended that we did it, and not realize, like, I literally wrote him and said, this is just an April Fool's joke. We were just trying to have fun. We were not trying to embarrass or degrade people that lose their hearing. We were just trying to have fun, and he still didn't get it. Like he thought it was a real product and wanted to get in touch with me via LinkedIn and see if we could work together. And whoa, it's just a joke.
Hey, buddy, we destroy hearing.
That's right.
We don't promote it. We always promote it. Safe sound. Remember the old T-shirts that had practice safe sound? We still promote that.
Yeah. Well, we destroy the hearing. You guys just provide the product.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Let's see. I'm still scrolling through. I'm gonna show everybody something here in a minute that stuck around, because you guys deserve a little extra. Actually, while we're looking, I didn't show this off before, but I'll go.
Oh, is that a?
This is a Punch 75. Here, let me go full screen so you can.
Nice.
Too much light on it. Oh, it's not in focus. Hold on, let me back it up.
You know what's funny is I see a lot of 4575 150s. I don't see very many Punch 30s.
The Peanut.
Yeah, the Peanut. Actually, that was a contest here at Rockford Fosgate where we were trying to figure out a new code name for the product, and an employee won that and named it the Peanut because it was so tiny. So that employee got to name the product, and that was the nickname. So that went out on the advertisements.
And that was a perfect nickname for that.
It is. It is the perfect name. And this is so 90s too. And this goes back to the shirts. You know, the boxes, I think, stood out so much for Rockford back in the day that a lot of people just, hey man, I want to keep the box. You never threw away one of these boxes, right? You always kept it because it's the coolest box.
Don't they remind you of Saved by the Bell?
We've got that T-shirt that goes along with it, right? But we had a dually, a Chevrolet dually that I drove across the nation. That was our demo vehicle that matched that to a T, and we used that on a lot of our advertising. And that was a super cool vehicle. It was a rolling billboard, so you had to be very, very careful with where I parked at night at hotels. But yeah, super cool box design. You know, totally 80s style right there.
What size is that shirt there? Because it looks mighty big. Just curious.
It's an XL.
Wow. That wouldn't even get close to fitting me.
Your face just was like,
I could probably, no, I can't. Yeah. I'm not sure if people were as big back in the 90s as they are now. So
no, they're definitely not. This is total side jag, but I ordered a shirt off eBay because they don't sell this shirt anywhere else, and it's the way I wanted it. And I know it was coming from China, so I ordered it big, and that thing is like 3 sizes smaller than it should be.
Oh,
and it's a Cobra Kai shirt, strike hard, strike fast, and it's got it's so sweet, man. I'm just gonna hang it up somewhere. I put it on, and it's I can wear it, but it's not a good look.
Yeah, Asian sizes, because they're much more petite than we are. You kind of need to go 2 to 3 sizes up typically, but it was still not sized even when you made that correction.
I went a size up, and it's probably still a size small. So I'll just hang it up, or maybe lose weight someday. Who knows?
Working on it. I'm going to blank my video just for a second because I'm going to put something on so I can show you. But you can look through the questions, Rob. I'm not dropping off. I'm just going to blank my video.
All right. He's getting naked, folks. If you can't see.
Hey, he's a good-looking guy. We need to see all of them.
He's got that bald head, man. It's really good. Third first real system was a complete Fosgate setup besides the Eclipse deck. Oh, no, he's back.
Whoa,
like David
how
Hasselhoff.
did you get your hands on that?
You're muted, D.
I'm muted.
Wow.
25 to life, baby. I'm going to have to give a shout out to whoever sent this to me. I think it was Itchy that gave it to me. I'm not sure, honestly. If you sent this to me and I'm saying the wrong person, this was years ago. This is probably 6 or 7 years ago. And when I was going through the closet tonight looking for the other shirt that Eric gave me, I remembered. I was like, oh, I've got a jacket. And I have a Phoenix Gold one, and I've got this one. And the funny thing is, this is a 3X. Okay, I'm a big dude, but it fits like 3X wide. But when I stand up, it barely goes to my belly button. I'm 6'4", so I usually need a tall. But yeah, this is a cool jacket, man. These leather jackets will last forever. But
and on camera, you're from here up anyway, so it doesn't matter what's going on.
That's why I don't stand up. That's right.
Yeah, we don't wear pants on this show. No one knows.
Yeah, hey, now they know.
Yeah.
So interesting. The gentleman that just made the comment about everything was Rockford Fosgate except for Eclipse source units. Before Rockford built source units, we actually used to use Eclipse radios in our demo vehicles. One vehicle that I was very, very fortunate enough to be a part of the build with Mr. Mark Lowe, who is probably one of the world's best fabricators, and really laid a lot of groundwork for car audio fabrication as it is today, was a 1995 Chevy Impala. And Mark and Paul Sonoda and Rick Jones at the time, they rebuilt some of the dash and put a monitor and an Eclipse source unit in that car. And that's the one car that had the least amount of speakers that we've ever built in the company history. They had 2 audiophile tweeters, 2 audiophile mid-range, and 2 power series subwoofers, and that's it. I was able to chrome the amplifiers, polish them. I polished the baskets on the subwoofers themselves. So I was very fortunate to be a part of that build, and yeah, that was actually one of the one and only cars that had the least amount of speakers, and it was strictly designed for sound quality. But we did use Eclipse source units back then too. Yeah.
You know, fun fact about those old Eclipse units, they had very high outputs.
Yes.
And you could seriously mess inferior amp up with those, and a lot of people did.
That's why we used them, because the preamp on it was so strong at the time. You know, at the time, it was like 250 millivolts, 500 millivolts, and they had a preamp that was really strong, and we could use that signal because that allows us to create more dynamic headroom within the gain structure. So that's why we liked them. And nowadays, a lot of radios, well, we had a period where voltages were going up, and nowadays, even some of the premium radios, it's actually better to use the speaker outputs, if you can believe it, rather than the preamp outputs, because you get a hotter voltage out of that and you can do more with it.
Pro tip
for sure. Yeah, I see DOHC ZC79 Civic. You said don't forget super chats. They've already scrolled past, so we didn't see your earlier question. Let's see here. He did say that his let me look at school Lightning Audio Storm Jetta. My first serves were Lightning Audio Storm X210s.
Oh, those were the TC
Yes.
sounds subwoofers?
Storm was the top of the line for Lightning Audio. Those were great subwoofers. I think those had the interchangeable magnets. You could either do the ceramic ferrite magnet or the neodymium magnet on the Storm woofers. But there was a photo circulating with the late Paul Walker where he signed the Jetta that was built for the Fast and Furious. I think it was Fast and Furious 2, and it had our product in that. The Lightning Audio product was in that car. He stopped by our one of the movie debuts in Europe, and he signed the dash of the actual vehicle. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's. I'm a huge Fast and Furious fan. So I'm always looking, especially in the first 2 movies, the systems were a big part of it, and they had everybody was there. Lightning Audio, Rockford Fosgate, Phoenix Gold.
So we actually had the blue Jetta and the pink Suki's car.
The S2000?
Oh, yeah, man. We actually had those in our booth at CE. Is CES or CEMA? I can't remember back then. But we actually had them because we were part of the Fast and Furious licensing program with Universal Pictures at the time. So we actually built Lightning Audio versions of product that were Fast and Furious labeled. So it was, that was pretty cool.
I remember those. And, I was telling Derek, which he didn't really know who it was, but Craig Lieberman has a YouTube channel now, and he's going on and dissecting, the first 2 movies that he was in and talking about all the cars and the stereo systems. And yeah, I've watched every single video he's put out.
Yeah, cool series.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm still scrolling through to see if there's any more questions. I know, again, the way our software works that we use for streaming is I think it leaves about 50 comments, and once it gets to 50, it kind of overwrites the old ones. So some of you guys asked questions early. If you're still here and we didn't get to your question, just throw it in the comments again, and we'll see it pop up.
I know something that I did like about Rockford Fosgate, which it's this might just be my weird thing, but I really like accessories. The White Wolf RCAs were so dope back in the day. The little amplifier, the Black and Grind style amplifier accessory for the fuse blocks, awesome. The DSM one's awesome. Love that stuff.
Yeah, we really expanded the accessories in was it 2003-4 period. White Wolf was basically the top of the line twisted pair, and a lot of the product line has been scaled down because we didn't really need a good, better, best for every single cable, every single connector. So we've whittled it down to the products that made sense. We still use twisted pair. So twisted pair, I know a lot of guys should know about that. So it's instead of just a normal conductor and a shield in parallel, twisted pair is actually a carefully twisted positive and negative that electrically cancels out any noise that gets picked up on the cable. So yeah, we use twisted pair in a lot of our RCAs. It's the best noise rejection, period. But White Wolf twisted pair, probably one of the best interconnects that we ever came out with.
Yep, I love those, and I like the look of the Type RF ones that were shortly after that. They look cool too.
Oh yeah.
Quick shout out to Dean and Fernando for helping me out with that last video and providing that segment. I really appreciate that, guys. So Eric, looks like you're on the hot seat here for a different show too. So
Dean, well, I'll text you. We've already got the plans made, right? So
there you go.
I'll see you in February.
As you can see, he's a great guest. So have fun with that one, Dean.
Yeah, Dean and Fernando have been really amazing partners. They're just great guys, super cool, and they do some really, really good content for the car audio community. I mean, I really can't thank them enough. They really spend a lot of time and effort to really share a lot of car audio secrets with, enthusiasts. Great guys. Really glad to have them on board.
Yeah, we don't think they ever sleep. Or maybe they take turn sleeps, like maybe Fernando doesn't sleep one week and Dean sleeps, and then maybe one week Dean doesn't sleep, Fernando sleeps.
Yeah,
well, I know Dean while he's jogging, so I know he's trying to condense time here. So
yeah, the amount of content they put out is mind-boggling. I mean, if you think about they're doing the stuff all day at work, and then they're still able to get the what was it, 2 or 3 videos a week? Did he just text you?
So Brian Pasecki in technical support just sent me a picture of some, looks like 6x9 Fast and Furious speakers.
Oh, there you go. Oh man,
awesome. Gives me more respect for Rockford Fosgate.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about earlier. It means a lot, for everybody to get kind of an inside baseball on these companies, like the bigger companies that people, you'll hear the comments like you talked about earlier. People online on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever, will say, well, it's not the same company it used to be, or this or that. And Eric's like, I've been there 30 years. I can tell you what it's like.
And thank you, Jesse. That's super nice of you to say. And, it's great because, like what you just said, Derek, we're all, moms, dads, college students, going to work here. We love the company, and, we're a bunch of just human employees, trying to do the best we can. There's so much that gets, brought up over the internet and politics and all this other stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, we're trying to build the best car audio product on the planet. We're trying to help save the world from bad car audio, as to steal that tagline from Zach Luke.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the landfills from, having all that extra waste.
What are you talking about?
There you go. There's the man.
Cool. Hey, buddy.
Yeah, that's the show.
Info, Michael. I'll be relaying it. Michael reached out first thing this morning as I was waking up, so I got you on my list, buddy.
Yeah, don't let him take a tour in person. I mean,
he already did, actually. He
did.
He's gonna come back.
Did you check his pockets when he left? Oh Lord.
Yeah, so I think
his name was Fingers 22.
I think Michael's going to come back with his family. We gave him some spots to maybe check out the Grand Canyon, Sedona. There's some really beautiful places in Arizona to come vacation in. And we'd love to have Michael back. And we got to get that museum finished, buddy.
Yeah, Schultz, he's a good guy.
Yes. Yeah, he's he takes Fanatic to a whole new level. In fact, I've thanked him several times for being such a fanatic about buying the Rockford stuff, because I just wouldn't want to compete price wise against him when things would get on eBay. So he pretty much just, hey, I guess I'm going to stop now. So thank you, Michael. And you're welcome to go ahead and build that museum up. And he has a lot, and I think he has so much he doesn't even know what he has.
I think he's got a running inventory somewhere.
Yeah,
There's got to be a spreadsheet somewhere.
He needs it. Let's see. Gold-plated punch for. Yeah, that would be an expensive endeavor.
Yeah. I think some people did do copper-plated and gold-plated because it's just a extruded aluminum heatsink with those models, and so it was easy to polish, so you could easily get chrome. But I did see some that copper plated and chrome gold plated. Those were pretty cool. Yeah. And then the shrouds came in different colors.
I've got to find those ones that guy Liege, whatever, I can't say his name, did. I got to find that picture.
Chrome ones. Oh, those are so sick. A full set of them.
They were copper, I think. I hope he's got under his pictures while you're looking. I'm going to see if I can find it, because that was.
I think he had the full series of that. What was it? The 45, the 75, the 150.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't even have
he did them copper. And I posted that on my Instagram, because I asked him if I could put it on my Instagram, and he let me. But those he did. I don't know how much he spent doing all that. It was a crazy amount, but they look absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it, and I'll share my screen. If I can't, then here we go. Came right up. All right, so let me share my screen so everybody can zoom down a little bit so we can see it. Oh, where did it go? No, it didn't take me to the right page.
Oh no.
Well, I clicked the link and it didn't. Here we go. I had to click the wrong place. This is exciting stuff, I know. Let me share my screen. Here we go. You guys have got to see this if you haven't.
Yeah.
Oh man. Zoom in on those babies.
Super cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's also super cool to see John Pleitz on social media. He's been active lately and talking about these amplifier designs. Great engineer, great products that's really endured the test of time. So really, really cool designs.
Yeah. Yes, I have noticed that too. That's neat. I hit him up about coming on here, but I haven't been able to get a response yet. So he's thinking about it. So we'll see how that goes.
And if you do come take a tour, I will show you the patent on that heatsink. It's up on the patent wall. Very cool design.
Sweet.
Show keep on rocking, Rockford Fosgate. Thanks, William. Appreciate it very much, bud.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, we've got a busy week coming up for the week of SEMA, and we're gonna have to plan a stop. We're gonna have to.
We'll have to see what Eric's schedule is too, what they do at SEMA and all that, and try to make sure we can, get to Rockford if we're gonna do it when he's gonna be there too. So
yeah, for sure.
We'll have to see. Next year may be busy around that time of year. All right. I gotta share this before we go.
Share screen.
That's a great way to end the show. Jesse, that was good. Appreciate that.
I'm glad he said pants instead of chaps.
Yeah, or yoga pants, right?
Oh yeah. Hey.
And if you walk out of that room, your wife's going to be like, "You're not going out. You see the leather pants."
The Fonz in the house. All right, Eric. Well, again, thanks for your time. This is a great time for us, and we got some of the history, we got some of the stories. Like I said, we could have probably gone on for hours and hours. We'll get you back on maybe sometime in the future, and we can talk about some more stuff. We'd love to have you back. And thanks for everything that you've done, over the past 30 years with Rockford. And this is just kind of a shout out to you for them. And the fact that, getting to see employees like you and for everybody here that got to see this and everybody who will see this in the future, this is only a good thing, for the industry in general, not only just Rockford Fosgate, but we've got really, enthusiastic people that do this. And this is not somebody who's just punching numbers and just pushing things out the door. And this is part of your life. And it goes without saying that, people appreciate that kind of thing. So I hope that they appreciate the fact that we try to bring this stuff to everyone and the fact that you are willing to come on to tell your story. So we do appreciate you doing that and joining us tonight. So
I appreciate it very much. It's actually an honor for me to be a part of your guys' world, because whatever small thing that we do over here at Rockford Fosgate, if we can share that, it's just good for everybody, good for the car audio community. So it's an honor for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. And real quick before we drop out, Jeff, always love Rockford Fosgate, Big D, High Five Vega. Appreciate that, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us on the live stream. Remember, next week, we're getting a confirmation that we're going to be live with a guest. But either way, next week is our normal week to go on. So we will be back next week, same time, same place, youtube.com/12etalk. Check us out. Check rockfordfosgate.com, youtube.com/High Five Vega. We're signing out, people.
Yeah,
have a good rest of the week. Thanks again, Eric.
Peace out.
Peace.
Later.